keeping God as the center of your relationship and your marriage is key. Like didn't really even have to I didn't really need this list to know that some of these things were important because these things have just kind of come to me throughout the marriage. And I think that is it's not it didn't happen like as a coincidence, right? I think these things are part of the reason why Haley and I have even got together in the first place while we're married and have a successful marriage. We're almost at our 1 year anniversary in June, so it's been 9 months. And we've been doing these things in our marriage without even having someone like lay it out as clearly as this has been laid out. But I will say that this list is pretty accurate. That no one's perfect. Of course, there's certain things I need to work on too. Like I said, my tone. But I think overall, this is a really good list. And that if you follow it, you probably have a lot better relationships. You have less arguments, and you will understand each other a lot better.
I be asking Brian all the time, like, what's he thinking about, like, when we're not doing anything? He's like, nothing. And in my mind, like, it's just really hard to comprehend that, like, you're not thinking about anything. Because at any given time, I have 25 tabs open, and I'm running a program. I have a funny, I don't know, but I have this thing where I'm like, I have I used to say a Windows 95 processor. I think I'm upgraded to like a Vista. Like this thing, it's smart, it worked, but it might be a little slow.
It's a little slow.
It's just I got a lot going on.
We had a relationship series in church this week. I'm just gonna quickly just talk about some of the things that we discussed. Like I took some quick notes, and this is gonna be geared towards the men. So for the fellas, kind of like how I did on the previous video, but this is gonna be just my takeaways from the sermon. And the first part that they discussed is things that women wish men knew about them, right? So first one, women multitask and multi-think. And I feel like Haley's always said this to me, how she could like multitask, and I think I can multitask too. Like I think I can, but the way they compared it was like they got like 15 programs working, and we might have like 5 programs working. And honestly, like I don't even like to think about 15 things at once. Like I just prefer to just focus on a few things. I make lists, right? I make lists of the things that we have to do for tasks, and I guess she will just keep everything in her head and do it at the same time. But that is not how that works for me. So I guess it's like when you frame yourself to like put yourself in their place, this is like a way to kind of think about the things that they normally do, right? So multitasking they normally do. Women find intimacy in conversation. I think this kind of reminds me of like different love languages, right? So it seems like a verbal love language, like words of affirmation. Like I'm more of like a physical touch, acts of service type of guy. But just remember to always like, find time to speak, even if it's been a long day at work, even if it's been like a stressful day, maybe not be in the best mood. Just try and find times to be intimate with your wife, or intimate with your girlfriend. Like I think just speaking more is a way to kind of do that. And I know women most of the time talk more than men. I know a couple guys that like to talk more than usual, but just remember to find time and prioritize that. Yeah, it kind of goes into it. Women want you to listen first and problem solve later. Yeah, just remember that's with anything, honestly. Like, we're problem solvers. We like to fix things. We like to get to the root of the issue. That's kind of like what we've been doing, how we've been successful. But just remember to listen first. Sometimes it's not always like you have to figure something out or have to find a solution. Sometimes you just gotta like be like one of the homegirls and just listen to them talk and just be like really interested in what they're saying and just like be engaged, and be an active listener and just like sit there and be like, oh yeah, what's up? Oh really? Oh no, like you're sipping tea. You know what I mean? So like that works, right? And then sometimes you'll find yourself doing that too. Um, the next one, women need you to show up. They find safety in consistency.
That's a word.
Yeah, right. Um, I think it's just like this one is don't make empty promises. If you're not going to do something, then don't say you're going to do it. Make sure you're prioritizing things that you're actually going to do. Um, Because then yeah, it's like if you're not prior, it kind of like, is like a pattern, right? If you're not consistent here, then what makes me think that you'll be consistent in other areas that are more important, right? And I know that could be a little bit of a reach because like you know, hopefully she can count on you when it really matters, right? But I guess it's like a mental thing. If like it happens over and over and over again, where you're saying you're gonna do something and you don't do it, even if it's like not even has nothing to do with her. Like say like you just say, hey, I'm gonna dedicate more time to doing this or reading or dedicate more time to working out, and you don't do it. It just shows her that your word doesn't really mean much to yourself, right? So just be about what you say, or just don't say it at all. In my opinion, like just don't say it. Maybe say it internally and keep your goals to yourself if you're not going to take your goals seriously. Um, Next, women desire to be talked to, not talked at. I think again that's like a lot of people like to be talked to, not talked at, right? Like we're still people at the end of the day, where we have emotions, we want to be involved. They don't want to be lectured, right? Like you're not their parent. She says, "Don't overpower with the logic." Yeah, like don't over, don't overpower her with logic, even though logic is important. Yeah, just yeah, exactly. It's just seeing a different side of things and just having a conversation versus just like I guess just shutting out her opinion, right? Like her opinion doesn't matter as much as what you think. Yeah, like I guess from a logical standpoint, like men are usually more logical. And so even though it might make the most sense in our head, it's always good to kind of just see their side and take that into account when you make decisions. So and then lastly on this part is she may look strong and act strong, but she still has a soft side. And yeah, I mean if you've been with women, you know that like, you know, it's and I don't want to make it seem like it's a front. Like there's a lot of strong, independent women out there. They're doing what they got to do. You know, what works for them works for them. But I still think that for every woman, when the right person comes, they could definitely show that more of like a soft side. They're not just all hard. They're not all just like stone. And I feel like that's like a safety mechanism or like some type of response that they've kind of had to do like for a long time. And if you find some women that like kind of are like stuck in that phase, and I think that they just haven't really felt 100% comforted or 100% like comfortable to just let that side out without feeling like they're gonna, you know, lose something in the process, right? Or just be vulnerable. It's a different type of woman, or you see a different side of women when you really see them become 100% vulnerable with you. And I think that's something that we should all strive to kind of do. And just gonna go into the next section. Yeah, this part is about how men make women become insecure, right? So, you know, you might find that the person you're talking to, they may not trust you as much, or they may not be as like vulnerable in your relationship, or they're just not fully giving themselves to you. I think that's something that is a way that insecurity shows itself in a relationship. And there are 10 things here. Being emotionally unavailable, right? No one's going to open up to you if you're not vulnerable and actually showing your emotions, right? Like we have to show our emotions. Like men have emotions. Like we can't just always be 100% emotionless. Right? We have to be able to show that to them. Be comfortable doing that. You know, start baby steps, right? You know, you can open up a little bit here, open up a little bit there. But I will say that it's not always on us to. It is on us to do it. But I can understand if like when you do show your emotions, you're met and put in a weird predicament where they kind of use that against you, or you feel like you're not being appreciated. I understand that completely, and that's something that you have to have. You have to have that conversation with your partner if you're running into these things. But just like cutting off emotionally is never the answer. No one wants to date a robot or like a caveman, right? Like you still gotta have emotions. Neglecting to provide or plan for the future. I'm big on this. I think like the number one reason why like a lot of these relationships don't work when people are younger, I would say like in your 20s, it's because you're just not, you don't know what you're planning to do with your life. Like you're just still figuring it out, you know, like you don't really know your purpose, right? Like I feel like I didn't really learn my purpose until I was late 20s, maybe 30s, right? Like especially with me because I was in professional programs, I did grad school. So like I think you have to kind of like be stable in your career as a man. Like it's a big part of like who we are as our careers. And until you're like finally stable in your job and in a certain location, it's kind of hard to bring someone else into that relationship or into your life.
And in your faith.
Yeah, exactly, and in your faith as well. I think those all kind of go hand in hand. Like faith would have to be a number one priority to just kind of align itself with what your God given purpose is. But then also just like once you establish that, I think it just opens the door to a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different things that make sense in your personal and professional life. So yeah, I think you need to make sure that you do that. Comparing her to other women, I mean, I don't gotta say much there. Like I think it's even vice versa. Comparing, if she's comparing you to other men, that's just never a good feeling. No one wants to feel like they're just inferior to someone else, or it just opens up a lot of insecurities in people. I would say that. So try not to compare them to other people. Just try and like foster the things that you want to see in them. Pray about them that these things will develop in them, but also feel 100% certain that you love this person enough that even if they don't change, that this is someone that you would still consider being with. Um, Failing to follow through on promises, I talked about that. Being harsh with words or tone, I think this is like probably the number one thing that's kind of been tough for me. I'm from New York, grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Like harsh, bad tone is kind of something that I've grown up with, and I'm Caribbean as well, so like you already know how that is. Um, but yeah, just trying to make sure you're delicate with your words. I know women can be really strong and have like a sharp tongue sometimes, but men also have a lot of power in the things that they say. And if it's someone that she loves or admires, it could be a lot more damaging than you think. So I would just make sure that when you do speak to them, maybe take a deep breath, think about what you want to say, and just ensure that you're speaking from a place of love and not a place of um, like frustration or anger. Flirting or being too friendly with other women, I mean, come on. Don't gotta go too much in detail there. Like, just don't do that. Man, I've seen some crazy stories about what people accept or reject in their marriages and relationships. That makes this like kind of tricky, but from my opinion, I think it's one woman, one man. I'll just say, yeah, don't be too flirty or friendly with other women. I prefer to not even contact other women, to be honest. Like, I just keep it very cordial. You won't really find me texting or calling other women. You gotta catch me outside, catch me in the community. You know what I mean? Unless it's something business that we're doing, we're discussing something important, or just a really good friend of mine. But I feel like a lot of my female friendships have kind of fallen off over the years, and there really is no reason for me to be being overly friendly with another woman, and I would just expect the same in return. Not defending her to others. Yeah, defend your queen. Like, don't let people talk crap about your woman. It could be family, it could be friends. Yeah, defend her. Like that. I think that's pretty straightforward. Keeping secrets or hiding things from her, that's never a good idea. Like that could be. What's even weird is if you combine this too. If you have secrets with another woman, I think that's even more interesting. Where you're not even open to her with certain things that you're open to with another woman. I think that's just like kind of like emotional cheating there. But yeah, just be open. I don't think there should be secrets. I share my passwords. She got my passwords. Like she got passwords to all my accounts. She could ride me dry. But and also like we have one shared account. You know what I mean? We don't have separate accounts. I mean we do, but I don't use it. It's just like in case I need to like buy something on my Bank of America, which I had before I came into the marriage. So it's no point in getting rid of the account. But yeah, I think this is important. Like just sharing things with your partner. I mean, I grew up almost like an only child. My brother was 10 years older than me, so if anything, I'm the more selfish one. But I've been learning to be a lot more open and sharing with my wife. Dismissing her feelings or concerns. Yeah, you want to make sure that your wife feels like she can share things with you. You want to make sure that she feels like this is a partnership, that she can be involved with you. The more you kind of just like disengage, that you dismiss like what she has to say, or it's like your way or the highway, it kind of just leads to her closing up, her not sharing things with you. It becomes more of like a dictatorship versus a partnership, and no one wants to feel that way. You know, she wants to make it, even though like you might make a lot of decisions in the household. When she does say things, you want to make sure that you sit there and really like open up and listen to her. Again, listen first, right? Don't try and like just make decisions without really listening and understanding what she's saying. And then lastly, making sure that she feels like a priority. Um, there's some one thing I learned here too, like recently, is that you just want to keep the intimacy going between you and your wife. I think you can think she's a priority in your head, but it has to also show in your actions, and also it's not just necessarily her as a priority, but it's making sure that just the bond between you and her without any other third parties is still a priority. So that things like date night, things like going out and doing fun things together, cute things together, like paint and sip. Like a couple nights ago, we got a game and just play games in the house, and planning for the future, like having your little business meetings as a couple, and like planning for the year and the next year, kids, goals that you might have as a couple, professional goals, and how you can help each other. I think these are all important things to show that you guys are on a path towards something, and that this is a priority in your life. I think when you get too caught up in work or maybe other family, that kind of takes away from prioritizing the marriage or the couple. So just make sure you keep that top of mind. And I'll just wrap this all up, just if it wasn't clear, like keeping God as the center of your relationship and your marriage is key. Like I didn't really need this list to know that some of these things were important, because these things have just kind of come to me throughout the marriage. And I think it didn't happen like as a coincidence, right? I think these things are part of the reason why Haley and I have even got together in the first place, while we're married and have a successful marriage. We're almost at our 1 year anniversary in June, so it's been 9 months, and we've been doing these things in our marriage without even having someone like lay it out as clearly as this has been laid out. But I will say that this list is pretty accurate. That no one's perfect. Of course, there's certain things I need to work on too, like I said, my tone. But I think overall, this is a really good list, and that if you follow it, you probably have a lot better relationships. You have less arguments, and you'll understand each other a lot better. And I'm going to pass this over to my wife so she can kind of go through some of the things that work for women. And I think that's a long list there,
Yes, it's about the same way.
About the same way.
Whew, Pastor Conway, he gave some very harsh truths to the ladies about, okay, so the conversation started about the statistics with black marriages, something about 34%. I can't remember if it's like only 34% of black marriages last, or only 34% of the community is
married.
Is married, yeah. And then, so only 34% of the community is married. And then when you think about the statistics of the number of marriages that end in divorce, he's addressing the problem that where like even believers and Christians are having in staying married, and getting married and staying married. And so this series, both the male side and the female side, is like just kind of addressing what the standard is and what the problem is, and it's allowing us to do some self-examination. So for the women, like it started off really, really rough. I'm gonna say the whole thing was really, really rough, but the passage that he started off in was 1 Peter 2:11-17. And so this message isn't even about, like, it isn't the traditional marriage versus about, husbands and wives. This is about authority, and the way that, like, authority in the world on earth, like how we're supposed to acknowledge that God is sovereign, and he allowed the leader, and wherever you're landed, to be put in charge, and so he has a plan for them, even if you don't agree in the type of and how you're supposed to submit to the authority. And we know that, especially right now, that's a hard pill to swallow when you think about the political landscape and the the leadership that we have in the United States right now. So this is the context that he set up our lesson in, and it was like, yeah, but this is coming straight from the Bible, so like it may be hard to hear and you may not want to submit to the authority, but this is literally written in the scripture. So I'll let you guys read that yourself. But with that, he started when he started it, like immediately blew my mind, because I feel like I'm a very, empathetic person. I feel like I can see a lot of different perspectives, but just the four things he gave us, four things that men, or that women need to understand about men to be able to, be in community or in relationships with them. And the four things were: one, it was to remove from our life our closest friends and our networks. And what he was saying here is that men don't have the same amount of community that we have. We have very close friendships. We have, people that are just like verbally like rooting for us. And so putting yourself in the shoes of having way less community overall. And then the next one was remove your deep sense of intuition and instinct. And I think that this is something that I am still learning about my husband. And it's like, my husband, I feel like he has good instinct, but like intuition, yeah, men just, it's just different for them. And it doesn't mean that, like, I feel like, there's things that we as women can just feel. Like, there's things that we just know to be true. Like, we can, have a whole conversation with our eyes, or not even with our eyes, with a, a glance or a tap or something. And we just have, a deep sense of intuition and instinct that men don't have there. I feel like intuition comes with emotions, like the feelings. And then, so yeah, they just are not operating from that place. And, I can't imagine. And then the next one was to link your value to an external standard of productivity, how much and how well you do. So this is like society has told men that their worth is in, what they can produce externally, how productive they are, how much they make, and I feel like there's, similar standards, but like not to the for women, but not to the extent for men. Like, that's not our full value. Like, I feel like I've told my husband, thank you for not linking or showing me that I have, value outside of my productivity. But like, that's a standard that I placed on myself. That's not what society is also telling me all the time. Maybe a little bit, but not to the extent of men. And then and this one was like kind of a big eye opener for me. Is just imagine experiencing 1/10 of the validation that I get daily. Mm-hmm. And this was eye opening for me. One, because I'm like, when I think about it, like, yeah, like I have like everyone in my, like all of my close friends, like strangers, like always validating me or like giving me compliments or telling me, how great I am and how well I do things. And I do that for Bryant, like overkill. But he's not getting that outside of me, like except for his family, maybe. But yeah, men don't get half of the validation. Like we're always hyping each other. That's how we greet each other, is just hyping each other up, whether it's, how we look or what we do. It's a very common thing for us to just validate each other. A lesson that Pastor had for us, for the ladies, it was 10 ways that wives and women tend to emasculate men. And this is already just a hard topic, but so the first one is trying to change him, with the suggestion is encourage, instead of trying to change him, encourage his growth, pray for him, and trust that God is working in his life. I don't feel like I need to change my husband, but there's like some ways that I would try to talk him to death or try to explain. But what I've learned is that a lot of times things are just heads and tails, baby. Like you looking at one side, I'm looking at the other, and we looking at the same thing, but and there's no amount of language that I could use, or there's no amount of words that I can use to get you to see anything. Or and the same thing is going on the other side, as well as he's trying to explain, what he sees on Tails. And so the best thing to do is just to go to God and ask him to, and pray for him, and then trust that God is working, and in his own time, and that you got to leave it there. The next one, I feel like I have a big problem with this, and it's taking over instead of trusting him. And yeah, I see this a lot, and like even in my friends, especially like high functioning women who have been striving. And I've got 3 degrees. Okay, I know how to accomplish some things, and this happens a lot. It's like I'll just do it myself, or I don't want to have to explain, or I've explained it before, and you just like decide like I'll just do it to avoid it. But also that is not trusting him, or even like seeing a new perspective, giving him the chance to do it his way.
Just empower him,
Yeah, and just empowering him to do it. And I feel like this came up early in me and Brian's relationship, and I'm coming from the perspective of like, oh, I just want to help, or I'm just helping, but like he saw it as, you're not helping. Like when you do that, I feel like you don't trust me to do it, and so then it just shuts him down. So this one is tough, especially even if your intention is pure and you really just coming from a place of you want to help, or you want to take something off of his plate. But if he said he's gonna do it, or if he said he's doing it, like let him do it. And like honestly, it feels so much better. Like once you release the whatever the reins, and you let him do it, and you see that it gets done, like it feels so much better. It's like a weight off your own shoulders, because he's like, oh, I don't even have to do that. Like, wow, he did that so well. And so just giving him that opportunity, empowering him, and then just like trusting that he could do it. The third one is withholding respect until he earns it. And that's I feel like that's a given. Respect is common in our culture to say, respect is earned. Like that's not the godly way, especially for your husband. Respect is required. Respect is the bare minimum. So show him honor in words, and and also he's mentioned that when we show him honor and respect, it brings out the best in him. So boom. The next one is undermining him in front of the kids, or you scoring his decision and leadership, in front of the kids. We don't have kids yet, but yeah, I think this one is ideal. He brought up like little, white lies or white moving words, like when he's not around, we can, I'll let you do this because your daddy's not here. And it's like, well, you're teaching your kids that, that you run this house, or you teaching your kids that like what daddy say don't mean anything. So I think that was a good insight. And the next one's being very controlling.
Kind of goes into the last one too.
Yeah, it goes into the last one. So it's like let go of the need to micromanage, and invite partnership rather than forcing compliance. And it's like, yeah, like your way is not the only way. Like even if his way is taking a very long time, like even if you see it so clearly, like let go and let God. Boom. And then the next one is comparing him to other men. Just don't do it. That doesn't feel good, even to yourself. So why would you do it to him? It can get comparison is a trap, y'all. Like even if you're comparing him to other men, you're not seeing him and his way, and why like he's so great, because he is great, especially if you are following these things, and like he shines more. Demeaning masculine interest is the 7th one. So if you're like, why you always want to golf, or why you always want to play games, I don't know. Brian just likes to watch anime and work out, And I feel like I play around a little bit. I call him Big Protein. He'd be like driving me crazy with the macros, but. And I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know if you consider that a masculine interest, but I guess so, because he wants to get big and stuff. But yeah, just don't demean. He needs his Mac. He needs, these masculine things to flourish, and like Pastor encouraged us to create spaces for his masculinity to flourish. And then he also said that a stronger man has a happier wife, and I agree. Number 8 was weaponizing intimacy. And so this is like withholding sex or withholding, affection or any, but especially sex. Because, he didn't clean or because he's XYZ. And in my own marriage, I don't weaponize intimacy. But even if I'm like never in the mood, if I'm not in the mood to be intimate with my husband, and he is, like, I will, 9 times out of 10 give in if I'm awake. And like what and what I learned is it's like, even if I'm not in the mood, this is so weird because your parents are watching. But even if I'm not in the mood, like I get in the mood eventually, So yeah, don't withhold intimacy. And then 9 was withholding affirmation and approval. You got to be his biggest encourager, and your words of affirmation give him the confidence to take on the world. Again, this comes back to the 4th point at the beginning of this, is like, men don't receive half of the validation that we receive. And so a lot of times you're the only voice in his ear that's telling him, like, hey, no, you're the only voice affirming him and telling him, that he's valuable, that his contributions are appreciated, they're good, and even like seeing, what he's doing. So don't withhold affirmation and approval, because he needs that. And he's likely not getting it from anywhere else. And those are the 9 that I had. I guess there was only 9, or maybe I forgot to take down the 10th one. But I learned a lot. It was definitely it was a heavy hitter for a lot of people, especially in the context of 1 Peter in that scripture. Just thinking about submission to an authority figure, and like that's already like just so touchy in this society, is like the idea of submission. But then when you think about in the biblical context of what a man's purpose is in marriage, like it's really just synergistic, and like if he's submitted to God, there's like it's a no-brainer to submit to your husband, and it's all to bring God's kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. So boom, that is what he had to say for the ladies. Hi, Peter. Did you learn something today? Did you learn something today? You're so cute. You're so handsome. You're just the best boy in the whole wide world.